Everybody feeling good? That was a wonderful, wonderful 2 hours spent. The U.S. men's national team go back to back to back, just like Michael Jordan, who did it twice. In the Nations League, fantastic stuff. And by the way, we have to ask that question, which I will in a little bit, about the United States' place in CONCACAF, because right now it wouldn't appear, I don't want to diminish our region because it's a wonderful region and so many memories, but with the Copa America looming, this whole relationship with South America and CONMEBOL is really important. That is next level stuff. Just like USC and UCLA, maybe the United States has to ship over to CONMEBOL. They won't do that, obviously. Well, not a bad idea. You got to move. I mean, it is true. You have got to play to your strengths, and the U.S. has to look beyond its region if it wants to get better. Because this is a great result. We're not going to diminish anything. We're going to get all the bad stuff out early. We don't want to diminish this because beating Mexico is always sweet. And but the gap feels really big, doesn't it? And I also want to not dwell on the Gregg Berhalter stuff, because I was going through my social media timeline and I didn't see all the Berhalter out stuff. And look, he'll continue to make a few missteps, but winning the Nations League means he is going to be here through the World Cup. So you can continue to set these campaigns. I saw somebody who said, would you pull against, it was like a poll on Twitter, would you pull against the United States if it got Gregg Berhalter fired? I got emotional. I was like, what are we doing? So I'm not saying Gregg Berhalter is the right guy for the job. I'm just saying that he is going to be here unless they bottom out in the Copa America. They lose all 3 games, which isn't going to happen. He is going to be here for the Copa. He is going to be here for the World Cup. So let's enjoy this, right? This was good. I felt like we were all together on this. All the narratives came together and we were a collective. So get used to it, because anytime you tweet that, it's just performative. No one's listening. No one cares. On the inside tracks, they don't really care. So today here on the Soccer OG, check out the Soccer OG podcast. I'll be joined by Mauricio Pedrosa. Monday coming out some point. We'll talk about the Nations League. We'll talk about the USA-Mexico rivalry. We'll talk about the Copa America and where these two countries, because we are connected. We need Mexico to do well. We need Canada. I was happy Canada qualified for the Copa. I think Canada's going to make it to the quarterfinals. I think they'll finish second behind Argentina in their group. We need CONCACAF to prove we still got it. But right now, it's the U.S. here, Mexico, Canada, and then everyone else. And we got to fix that. So check out the Soccer OG podcast. Like and subscribe us here. Smash that like button. We're not going to take too much time here. I also want to get this out of the way, because on CBS and Fox, they always go, is USA-Mexico the biggest rivalry in world soccer? And, you know, I've been drawn into that debate, and I'm like, we've got to stop asking that question. It's a great rivalry. It's played frequently, but we're not there in the United States. And, you know, all these results help, but, you know, 5% of the population cares about the U.S. soccer. World Cup, that'll change a bit. But right now, no one noticed. Everyone's watching March Madness, as I said in the last. March Madness wasn't very good, and they're still watching March Madness. So it doesn't resonate in our country where you can say it's a big rivalry. It can't compare to Argentina, Brazil, or even though they don't play that often, or England, Scotland, or England, Germany, or Netherlands, Germany. Just because it is a national passion there. It's not here. We're all here in this on this show and others to change that. It's going to take time. I believe I'll be dead and buried by the time soccer's going to get there, but it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot longer than we thought. But quality USA results, this helps. Quality in the Copa America helps, and quality in the World Cup helps. But let's stop having this debate. Let's bury it, just like who is better, Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Let's bury it. Retire it. So the United States are here. And again, we didn't get enough credit to where credit was due. It was a Christian Pulisic corner kick to Miles Robinson, who banged it off Corey Burke. That 95th minute goal allowed Gio Reyna to weave his magic and Haji Wright, so that we could get to this final and have this moment. And I wanted to show this photo because it's now going to go into these incredible photos of U.S. soccer. And there is Gregg Berhalter and Tyler Adams. And I'm not saying this to say that Gregg is the right guy, But if it's a conversation about how this team feels about Gregg Berhalter, that photo tells you everything. They love him. And he had a good night. He pushed the right buttons. As we take a look at the starting 11, some changes. I was a little worried about Chris Richards and Tim Ream, although Tim Ream played very well. Chris Richards, the jury's out. I want to get away from this thing just because this guy's starting in Europe, he locks into the starting 11. Because with Chris Richards, the jury has to still be out. Joe Scally, I think the jury's out. I don't know if Joe Scally is going to get called into regular national teams because I've looked at enough games where he's just, I don't know. Sure, he's playing in Europe, but if there's a better option, they're going to look for it because I don't think, and he obviously, Serginho Dest came in and he played and was excellent. Dest is there on the right, Anthony Robinson on the left. It was Tyler Adams as the 6. Surprised many to see if he was healthy, and we all know what Tyler Adams did later in this game. Gio Reyna slightly advanced, although he came back a bit. Clearly had a conversation with Gregg about his role, and that's a big topic here about where he falls. And then Weston McKennie, a little more advanced. And then the front three, Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, and the surprise, Haji Wright. Flo Balogun had a bit of a knock, although Balogun did come in a little bit later. I like to think this was a case of Haji Wright climbing the mountain to become the number 9. He had a wonderful game. He was a pain in the rear for Mexico. So he might have a claim between now and the summertime to be the number 9 of choice, especially if he keeps scoring goals in Coventry. He has some big games coming up. I don't think they're going to get promoted, but he has the FA Cup semifinal, maybe a final. So Haji Wright's world is great, considering he wasn't even on this roster. So, Gregg Berhalter had a conversation with him. He was going on vacation to the Middle East, and he said, we need you. And I'm glad that conversation happened. So that was a starting 11. So I think a little surprised that Tim Ream came back in, but he earned that. The role of Gio Reyna starting, although a little bit more withdrawn, which didn't work out until the very end, and I'll get to that in a moment. And then Haji Wright. Everything else seemed okay. They used a lot of substitutes, and it looked like we had depth, whether it was Musa, Aronson, Malik Tillman, Johnny Cardoso coming at the half. What a nice luxury to have, a Johnny Cardoso to come in the half for Tyler Adams. So it was a good squad, and the game, it was choppy at the beginning, and Mexico, I thought, had a nice rhythm going. Although no one was scoring goals, which I didn't panic too much. I thought the U.S. was in it. And I wish they asked this of Tyler Adams on the CBS coverage, because I'm pretty sure that he knew he was going to play 45 minutes. He may have addressed it after I'm talking about it. So when the ball comes to his foot and nothing was happening, we're going to get to halftime and we're going to be frustrated with what we saw and Berhalter out. And then he hit this shot from long range, and I wonder if he didn't have the minutes restriction, would he have tried that shot? It was an incredible goal. One of the best goals scored in USMNT history. It gave me the same reaction of Michael Bradley at the Azteca. Just a long-range shot. You didn't expect it, and then you're like screaming at the TV. I freaked out my mother-in-law. She's like, what's going on? And I was like, yes. I wonder if he would have taken that shot if he thought he was going to come back in the second half. Because as you're a player, you go, this is my last shot. I'm going to take it. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So hopefully someone addressed that and asked him, because I think that's what he would say. It was tremendous, and it changed everything, because the United States were so much better in the second half. They pushed the Mexicans. Mexico were fouling a lot, getting yellow cards, and you knew in the second half this was going the U.S.'s way. The Gio Reyna goal in the 70? Was it the 60? I can't remember the minute. Whatever. Gio Reyna scored. And I want to talk about Gio Reyna here for a moment, because people were frustrated about him playing a reserve role. And this is the thing about Gio Reyna, where we have to see growth. And we saw it today. This was the best from Gio Reyna. This was the biggest development for Gio Reyna in my estimation. Now, getting 2 assists against a Jamaica team that was running on empty isn't it. I mean, we went crazy about it, right? That's easy. What he did today was hard. He wasn't getting touches. There were parts in the second half where he had his arms out, pass it to me, and they weren't passing it to him. He had to look for work, and then he found the work. He went up on the left side, he drew a free kick, and then shortly thereafter on the goal, he moved up, had a shot, took it, and put this game on ice. 2-0. I love 2-0. I would have preferred 3-0. But Gio Reyna finding that work, and Gregg Berhalter could have pulled him here because he was not involved from the 45th minute to like the 67th minute. Not involved. And Gregg Berhalter knew that he could do it, and he kept him out there, and he delivered. Will we like to play him in advanced role? Sure. But if that means Weston McKennie moving back, Weston McKennie calls the shots. He has earned that. He has earned it by being a longstanding member of this team and playing where. Now, maybe they switched that in the back, but Gio actually played okay on some defensive efforts. I thought he did. Look, the proof is in the pudding. Clean sheet. When the defenders behind him weren't watertight, Anthony Robinson was a little shaky. Serginho Dest is just shaky in nature defensively, even though he was magnificent going forward. I talked about Chris Richards. Richards is in the crosshairs for me. I don't know if he could be starting every game for Crystal Palace. I don't want to have this conversation about, okay, this guy's playing in Europe, lock him in. No. And it could be a player that's still in Europe. Most of the players are in Europe. But just because he has this profile, if he's not doing it on the national team, we move on. So I thought Greg did really good with the lineup. So it was a really strong 11. And I loved how Gio Reyna grew into this game. He had to survive. And then he came up with a massive, massive play. So to me, this was 5 stars from Gio Reyna. So it was Christian Pulisic I thought was really good. Set pieces were better. He was everything at pace. You could see how he could have had a goal or two. This could have been a 3 or 4 goal score line for the United States. Memo Ochoa had to make some big saves. There was, right at the second half, like the first 20 minutes, there were a lot of chances. And the United States, grabbed this by the scruff of the neck. Before I move on about the U.S., I want to say this about Mexico. Mexico have issues. I don't know what Henry Martin was doing. I don't know why we have this with Santi Jimenez. There was a penalty overruled by VAR, which kept the aesthetics of 2-0, which has to infuriate the Mexican public, which is worth its weight in gold. But Mexico knows that there's a big gap between them and the United States. And I don't think there's anything they can do about it. Because the United States played okay, and they ended up winning this comfortably and lifting another trophy. And I don't want to see Mexico in a bad state, but I'm terrified about what it's going to look like Monday on these shows and the media after they were building up. They don't look like they should be on the same field at times with the U.S. It's a different level. And the U.S. have options that Mexico doesn't. Chucky Lozano frustrated. Santi Jimenez was average. Edson Alvarez was outclassed. They're best players. So, concerning, more than concerning. Concerning is a nice way to put it. I wanted to say a couple things about things that happen outside Jerry's world. We're going to see that a lot at the World Cup. The field was a mess. I want to see it better. It doesn't really pop on the screen. I want to say there was also issues with the Paramount stream. That's got to be better. I think they do a really nice job. At the end of the day, this game has to be on a big network to draw attention. It should be on CBS. I know CBS isn't going to move whatever hit shows out of the way to show that, but we need that, man. CBS, because people don't have Paramount. And I've heard stuff about Paramount, which is really comforting, is that the soccer is moving the needle for Paramount. The subscribers for Champions League, and I imagine to a lesser degree U.S. soccer, is helping that service. When, other shows like Yellowstone, I don't know, I'm picking on Yellowstone, are not doing it. So they've been very happy with what soccer's been able to provide. The stream hasn't been great. Jerry's World will play a role. They'll have a better surface for the World Cup and Copa America. SoFi Stadium, man, if we could get that in the crosshairs. It's just really good. Look, I think I hit most of those main items. I want to say this last part about the chant, because the Mexican public there used it, weaponized it, to try and suspend the game. And they stopped it a few times. And I got to say this. If the people doing it aren't being punished for it, why should we be? We've got to ignore the chant. I know that might be a little bit controversial. But unless you're going to grab these people out of the seats and make them spend a night in jail or whatever it is, or throw them out of CONCACAF games, why should we be punished? Why should the U.S. team be punished for this? They weaponized it. And we get bent out of shape and we insist that games get stopped. No more. Ignore it. Ignore it. Ignore it, which is what we should have done from the beginning. It's stupid. It's insulting. But you can't change stupid if people are going to do that. And that was done. I mean, this was a different chant, right? This was done intentionally to sabotage the game for a team that was losing. I wish the best for Mexico. We need Mexico to do well. We'll see what they do in the Copa. We need CONCACAF to do well. But the United States is flying. Gregg Berhalter is vindicated. He had a great night. I know he doesn't have great nights, but he had a great night with this lineup, with Gio, with Haji Wright. He's with Tim Ream. He nailed it. So enjoy it. We're not here to argue, right? We're here. We're together. Together. We are stronger. Soccer OG. Check out the Soccer OG podcast where all podcasts are available. Like and subscribe us here. We'll be back. The summer will be here before you know it. Let's go USA. Enjoy it. Have a bevy. Drink it out of the trophy. We'll see you soon.